Want to build a thriving business while making a much bigger impact in the world by becoming known as an influential voice in your industry? The choice versus just a choice with your ideal client? That's exactly what you're going to learn as I interview business experts, industry thought leaders, and entrepreneurs who are in the trenches making their mark so you can too. This is the award-winning podcast, The Ambitious Entrepreneur Show, and I'm your host, Anne-Marie Cross. And welcome to another episode. So my guest today says marketing is not just about big budgets, but about big ideas. Sharing more about that and joining me on today's show is Dmitri Smirnov. He is the CEO of Big Life Marketing, and he specializes in scaling businesses using Google Ads, transforming over 10 companies from $100,000 to $1 million per month. Now, his expertise lies in YouTube ads, as well as crafting effective marketing strategies, particular for info products and e-commerce brands. Now, on today's show, Dmitri is going to share practical strategies for Google Ads to significantly increase your revenue. He's going to share some insider tips on YouTube ads that engages audience and enhances brand visibility, as well as innovative marketing tactics to help businesses scale quickly and efficiently. So welcome to the show, Dmitri.
Thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to talking about marketing, creative, data, getting the word out there, being creative in copywriting and design and everything that it
All of
takes
that
to
good
be a
stuff.
good marketing.
Absolutely. Dmitri, before we dive into all of that good stuff, just give people a bit of a snapshot on your journey to becoming involved in this. Kind of what were the steps? Was this something that you were always interested in? What sort of led you down this path?
Well, it wasn't really something that was well known, digital marketing, when I was growing up as a kid, and kind of the major traditional jobs that people were after, especially in mathematics, which I was a big fan of. I was good at statistics. So a lot of people were going into Wall Street, insurance companies, things like that. But I had another uh, avenue that I was interested in, which is creative. I like to draw certain things. I like to come up with stories or write. So on one hand, the statistical side of my brain or personality was heading one direction. The creative side was heading another direction. And then really all by accident, those two paths crossed right after college. And it was at a small digital marketing startup where I learned about ads on Facebook and Google, and I just realized, wow, this is it. This is for me. This is what I've been looking for, and it's the best of both worlds.
Mm. Wow. And I mean, you're probably going to talk more about this, and the statistics versus creativity, they do kind of go hand in hand because one can inform the other. They kind of bounce off because you'll know if a creative aspect of your ad is working. How do we know? Well, it's going to be determined by the statistics. How would you say businesses are faring today with their ability to understand the importance of the data, the statistics? Are we winning? Are they starting to realize the importance of that and recognizing that and ensuring that that is in place? Or is there some learning and more growth to do?
I think everybody nowadays, business owners, do understand the importance of the statistics and of the numbers. But much like a lot of us are in our personal finances, in some cases, it's kind of a thing that we put off to do later, or somebody else can figure it out, or something like that. And so yes, it is important, and maybe in a lot of cases the business owners doesn't really truly believe that it is important. And I can kind of talk about why that might be, because maybe the story that's being told about the data or the numbers isn't compelling enough for that business owner to actually give it the time of day.
Mm.
But even in the age of all these tools, and we have tracking tools, conversion tools, and multi-channel mixing and matching tool, and all these things that exist, I would say that that tracking the data is actually kind of worse than it was before. And maybe we're overwhelmed by all the tools that
I think
exist.
so. Yeah, that's what I was going to say because there are so many different tools and more tools being added to the marketplace. But I'm sure that you being in the industry, and this is what a lot of businesses should be doing anyway, is having a very streamlined process, because the more simple and more streamlined, the more a business is able to scale, because there's not a lot of moving parts that could unfortunately break. So so let's strip it right back. When you're talking about the data, are there some data points, like markers, if you will, that you say these are really important for businesses to focus on? Yes, there are a lot of other things that we can track, but really, if you were to boil it down to these specific data points, this is what you should start focusing on, and the rest can come later. Are there some specifics that you really hone in on to keep it simple for businesses?
Yes, absolutely. And the first one I'm going to tell you in retrospect is going to sound way too obvious.
Yeah.
And it's money in, money out. Money in, money out. We overcomplicate things so much, but it really just comes down to, is your business making more money than the expenses that it incurs? We get caught up in what's the return on my ad spend for this traffic source and that traffic source. How much is my content costing me? uh how much is it costing to keep my designers and advertising agency, and I need a return specifically on this and that. And you have to know that every single platform, including Google ads, YouTube ads, Facebook ads, even traditional marketing channels like TV and other things, they're always going to try to attribute revenue to themselves. They're self-interested in doing that. So you have to zoom out and say, if I'm going to increase my marketing spend, am I ultimately increasing my revenue? And more importantly, am I increasing my profit? I would say that's so obvious to say. Everybody knows this, but are you really looking at it? Eh, the clients that we work with, they're not small. Oftentimes, they're doing tens of millions of dollars in revenue, and even they miss this. So this
Mm,
is an important KPI that always has to be tracked is expenses, revenues, and profit. That's the
yeah,
beginning. Now, after that, it gets a little bit more intricate, which we can get
yeah.
into. But I just wanted to stop there on the
You know,
biggest, most
what you've
important
just
one.
shared there, and often whenever I hear someone say, it may seem obvious, but it is so important, that is because it is so obvious and so important, often what we're not doing. And if we're not doing it when we're just starting out, or we may be just hitting our first 100,000 or our first 500 or million, if you're not doing it, then you are going to be hemorrhaging a lot more when you start talking about $100,000 marketing budgets and $1 million marketing budgets. And so, what would be some of the reasons and some of the, again, benefits of taking time? One that comes to me, and maybe I'm right off track, but if you create a whole marketing strategy that includes Google ads and so forth, and it brings it back to a product which really has no real market value, no one's really interested in it, you haven't done your research in the marketplace, that once you start investing in advertising, you're not going to generate the returns that you want because your product's crap or services are crap. These are the kind of things that you're talking about before you even start looking at spending money on marketing. What are some other things that you would encourage? Why is it so important to look at money in, money out?
Especially when you're starting out, the offer is the most important thing. What are you selling? Is it, like you're saying, is the market going to react to it? Are they going to want it? And
Yes.
and there's a few variables in here. The actual product or service that you have, is it good? Is it going to hold up? But arguably more important is, what is the story that you're telling about that product? The product might be just fine. It might be better than the competitors out there, but your story isn't. It's not landing. It's not having that effect of taking your prospects out of their existing day-to-day life and effectively hypnotizing them into buying from you in a good way. Um,
Yeah.
so the offer is just critical, and like you're saying, and if it's not working, and this is what I like to say, that you have to prove your offer with organic traffic before you spend money on it, because If it's an unproven offer, it's just a fast way to spend a lot of money and get no return or virtually no return, and actually hurt your chances of growing because you decide for, oh, this doesn't work, marketing doesn't work. Well, I'm here to tell you that marketing works very, very well. The biggest
Mm.
companies in the world are built on marketing. They're built on storytelling. Medium-sized companies, small companies, uh, the ones that actually succeed, they're built on marketing, so it works. But
Mm.
you have to have the right offer.
Yeah. Let's talk about storytelling, because I know that that is a significant aspect of any marketing strategy, storytelling, ads that you put together. More importantly, I want your feedback, if you will, on the storytelling of businesses today, because it's so often, and I'd love your thoughts on this. A business has not gone deep enough to really identify the key stories that is going to move your ideal client along the customer journey. So what they end up doing often is looking at, well, what else is really working? Can we copy that, or can we emulate that? Or what a lot of people are doing now, because we've got different tools such as AI, we're having AI and relying solely on AIs informing us as to what our story can be. But consumers are far more skeptical now, Dimitri, and we can see through storytelling that is inauthentic, and out of touch, and is not really providing value. So we are far more discerning, far more skeptical. So, what is the importance of a business, no matter what size, spending time on looking for those key story points that really will speak to the heart, and the pockets of our ideal clients? It's important, isn't it? It always has been, but even more so now.
And going back to the basics, or going back to how it was before, and things are changing. Okay, let's just take in the last 50 to 70, 80 years or so, we used to have just magazine marketing or television marketing. Now we have a lot more direct response. We have these new platforms that are lightning fast, but the principles do remain the same. I will say, and this is something that I heard a few years ago, and it's just really resonated with me, stuck with me, and I like to share it with you guys, is that the best ad is one where the prospect doesn't realize that it's an ad.
Yeah.
If you can get them to, and that's what you're talking about with the filtering out, or getting, having the danger lights on. We all know about where we see an ad, we just tune it out. And we have to wait for 15 seconds, but it's like, la 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 la, I don't want to hear it. But if you can convince your prospect that it's not an ad, and not in a malicious way, it's just captivating to them. That's the best kind of ad. And of course, with storytelling, specifically with ads, um, there's a certain structure to it. Now, it depends. It really depends on the setting of your ad. For example, if you're in a room where people are sitting down and physically there, and they can't leave for 45 minutes, you have a lot more time to develop your hook. For example, and they're not going to walk out and leave on you typically. And if you are running a YouTube ad, you have 5 seconds before that audience skips. So you have to hit them differently with the hook. So it just depends on the setting. But the general structure of a good storytelling ad is you hit them with a hook, which is intrigue. And you call out your audience. It doesn't have to be explicitly. You don't have to say this ad is for women 45 and over. You don't have to do that. You can say, you can describe a setting of setting a dinner with children, and cooking, and like opening an oven or something, and that brings maybe your target audience because you sell cookware, for example.
Mm.
um, and so you have an introduction that sets curiosity, and then it's desire slash fear. You have to kind of pick, is someone afraid of something, or are they trying to acquire something? And then you start working off that. You have to tell your story. And by the way, AI can be a really effective tool in split testing these things, but our brains are still, I think, better in terms of identifying which stories are more likely to land than others.
Yeah. And this is also what I heard too. As a business owner, it is important for you to have clarity on, say, data points or who your ideal client is so that you can inform AI in the best possible way so that AI can use what is important. And so, would you say that businesses, you talked about it's so important to have the right stories and to connect emotionally with your ideal clients, and we talked about data points, but when we're talking about ideal clients, do you feel that businesses have done enough research on their ideal client, or we need to be very discerning as far as who that is, so that when we do share and have that hook, it's going to speak directly to that one, or it's obviously more than one person, but specifically to that one need, that one problem, that one challenge, that one dream. And all of the other people who are not our ideal clients, they're just not even going to stick around, which is good, because I think the longer someone sticks around, you then have to pay. You want to eliminate anyone who is not your ideal client and speak directly to them. Are we speaking directly to them because we've done enough research and know exactly who that ideal client is? Are we winning at that, or is there still some more room to grow in that area?
There's always room for improvement. I think certain companies are doing it better than others. They're really, and depending on your product, you might have a broad appeal or a very specific appeal to a certain customer that has an exact demographic and might live in a certain location. You might be a local business, in which case your ideal customer is local, and the way you speak to them will be in that local language or cadence, whatever it may be. So, are we doing enough research? In some cases, absolutely not. We're trying to have broad appeal when we really shouldn't be. We're trying to cast a wide net, and instead of going deeper into the well and pulling the more valuable clients out.
Mm.
Um, and the way to really do that, I mean, there's two ways: is just by intuition. Who is this product made for? And a lot of the copywriting coaches, or like books, they'll talk about, when you write your ad, you have to write it to one specific person, create that avatar, not of a not of something that's kind of uh not clear, but a specific person. This is exactly what they look like, this is where they went to school, this is their family, this is what their likes, and this is how much money they make, and all this thing, you and now market to that specific person. Just makes it easier that way
Yeah.
when you're doing it person to person, one to one.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that, as you mentioned, and something that we are all familiar with, that split ads, there may be a couple of options that you can take that languaging and that storytelling, but it is going to speak specifically to, either one of those. And depending on what people resonate with, that is what initially your ads might do. And then there's a time frame that the organization would have, and you would recommend. And then from there, we'll see which of these tends to resonate more. I know some of these questions are going to be, well, it depends, how long is a piece of string? But if someone was just starting out, they knew that they had a really good product that was incredibly valuable, and they knew that if this gets in front of our ideal client, we know that it is going to move the needle for us. What would you say to people then who are at that stage ready to go, you know what, I need to talk to Dmitri? What are some things that they need to know before they reach out to you? I'm sure, I mean, are there specific budgets? Are there specific timeframes that you say on average you would need at least X amount of weeks or months to really get some clear data that you're going to be able to make some firm decisions on? Is there kind of a standard in the industry?
Some, yes, there is a standard, and if it's a if it depends on price. So the price of
Mm,
the product, if it's a $50 product or service or $5,000 product or service, there's going to be a different initial budget, and typically I would put that at about 50 to 100 times the price of the product is really what you want to be testing. Now, you
yeah.
don't if you even if you're selling something for $5,000, that doesn't mean that you have to spend $500,000 to see if anything will work. If you're even with a couple $100, you can see if there's anything happening. Let's say, are there clicks happening on your ad? Are people converting into a lead on your landing page? And so if you're not getting any of that, that means you have to go back to the drawing board. And what we'll say is, what we'll ask clients is the following: is how are you going to convince your audience that your product or service works? That's step one.
Mm,
Then, can you show or prove that this product has already worked for someone like them?
mhm,
Okay, and then maybe they have testimonials and all that. Great. And now the final and most important step: how will we show that your product will work specifically for them? If they can answer all those questions, they can show me that they've already made this product work in terms of sales,
mhm,
and that they're willing to be collaborative, they're willing to record content and iterate on a story, then we can take them on as a client.
mm. Fantastic, fantastic. I know that a lot of businesses, what we do, there's so much information out around the place. But what are some information, some insider tips that we may not necessarily be able to find out on Google if we were to do a search? What are some things that that people can only find out through someone such as yourself who has been doing this day in day out for many years? What are some tips that we need to know?
The first tip is to take all the data that you see in the platforms with a major grain of salt. And this kind of alludes back to what we were discussing earlier. Each platform is in the business of taking more of your ad spend. So they're going to try to show that it's working better than it might be. The other thing is that with privacy coming on more strongly nowadays, where these platforms are kind of tightening things up and browsers are as well, we actually have less insight into who our audience is, and we might not be tracking all those conversions. So you
Mm,
have it on both sides, where it might be working better or might be working worse, and you really can't trust anything other than the number in the bank account. I really want to stress that point, is that um, the money in, money out beats everything. So, and don't test multiple big variables at the same time. Let's say you want to start with a marketing platform. Well, start with just Facebook, let's say Facebook ads to start, or just Google ads, or just YouTube ads, and see how that changes what's going on in your business before adding all the traffic sources all at once. It's just too hard to manage and too hard to understand where the money's really coming from.
yeah. Let me ask you this. With multiple different platforms, then we used to say, and I just want to check in for someone who is consistently across a number of those different platforms, we always used to be told and may have experienced that there are different demographics, obviously, but different um, meanings behind why someone's on a platform. So is the content and the creatives that you may be sharing on Facebook, do they need to be different than if you're going through onto YouTube? Or are you finding that because there are things that are happening in the world today that's become a little bit more cloudy? You've got similar people who used to be on Facebook now hanging out more on YouTube. What are you finding? Do you still have to be very mindful that certain creatives are for certain platforms? Is that still very much apparent?
Yes, and it's actually not that you're coming up with different creatives for different people, because like you're saying, the same people are on all the different platforms. We're all pretty much on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and so on. But
Mm,
when we're using one platform or another, we're in a different state of mind. If we're on
mm,
Facebook, we're just killing time, browsing, looking for drama with people who we went to high school with, something like that. When we're
mhm,
on YouTube, a lot of the time, we're looking to learn something, and it is just miles away differently from each other in terms of state of mind. So when you're approaching those users, you have to know that. And and the creative that you use has to disrupt in a different way, and it has to intrigue in a different way, based on the state of mind. It's not even really about the platform. It's just what is the state of mind?
Yeah, so, so important. Let's talk about some innovative marketing tactics to help businesses scale more quickly and efficiently. I think those two words, quickly and efficiently, is what business owners are always looking for. So, what are some things that you are seeing working really well and helping people to start get some of their creative juices going when it comes to marketing?
The the best thing you can do in terms of Google and YouTube ads targeting is you target by keyword, by search intent. And you can do this both in search ads and YouTube ads, which is great because YouTube is also a search engine. So they both help each other, they both feed each other and gives Google information about what you might be interested in buying at this time. For example, if you're searching for birthday balloons and you're searching for uh, a wooden rocking horse, Google is going to understand that you're in the market for a gift for maybe a 3-year old, let's say. And
Mhm.
so that's how they. So when you have a business that's selling children's toys, and you target people by wooden rocking horse, you're pretty much going to get the exact type of people that you're wanting to do. And of course, you're going to have to test this, and it might not work. The obvious one might not work, but you're going to have 10 or 12 different keywords. So targeting by that search intent is the best and most direct way to hit your perfect audience quickly. And I'm all about getting sales fast. Before you scale big, you just got to start small and get your first few sales and then work off of that.
Yeah. In saying that, Dimitri, are you also recommending that businesses may not necessarily go, the product or the service that they're offering is not necessarily in the thousands, but to start off in a smaller, or that's not really what you're recommending. Whatever it is that they are advertising and creating that story around has covered all of the things that we mentioned today. When you talk about starting small, that's not necessarily the product or the offering, but how they approach the whole advertising.
Yes, how you approach the advertising now, if you do have a more expensive product, starting small is relatively bigger than when you have a smaller price
Yeah.
product, but you don't want to blow your entire budget on one test. We'll put it that way. And
Yeah.
before you start and during your advertising, there's a few key metrics that you need to keep your eye out on, and that's average order value. That's how much are people buying the first time that they buy with you, and then the long-term value or lifetime value. Oftentimes, people now are using 1 year value. How much does that customer spend with you over the course of 1 year? And finally, the cost to acquire customers, CAC. So these three metrics, and there's another one that I'm going to end with, but these three metric, your cost to acquire customer, your average order value, and lifetime value, that are very important in order to scale profitably. You can also look at your marketing efficiency ratio. MER is your total revenue divided by your total ad spend. And so that way, when you're starting off small and you see that your cost to acquire a customer is higher than your expected 1 year value of them, you're losing money on that. But let's
Mm,
say your cost to acquire a customer is less than your average order value the first time they spend with you, and you're expecting them to buy with you at least 2 or 3 more times, then you're doing great. You're
mhm.
on your way. So these
Yeah.
are critical metrics uh, to keep your eye on when you're advertising.
Mm. When people are thinking about what you said, and I think that that's a great recommendation, which is to start off small, focus on one platform, and really begin to leverage that so that you can generate the data to make an informed decision moving forward. Are there a specific platform that you would recommend someone start off with, or depending on who they are and what their product or service is, you would then recommend, well, I think you should really focus on YouTube because there's a more of a demographic that is going to be there, and you are more around the education versus, say, Facebook or Google itself. Do any of those platforms have recommendations that you make depending on what the business is, who they are, and what they're offering?
Yes, absolutely. If you're a local business, brick and mortar, search ads, local ads are pretty much the only place you need to start off with. If you're in coaching and you're selling a coaching program, certification, coaching services, anything like that, you're much better off to start on Facebook ads because your target demo is there, and the cost per click is significantly cheaper than YouTube. Once you prove your offer on Facebook, come to YouTube and scale to the moon there. But don't start there because it's too expensive. Clicks can be 10 times more expensive on YouTube in many cases. Now you get a lot more. Like you said, we're getting, and like we talked about, you're getting them in a different mindset, in a learning mindset, and maybe even a ready to buy mindset. A lot of people come to YouTube to compare products, look at demos. So they're ready to buy in that case. And you get to show them a long ad. You're only charged you're only charged for an impression if somebody watches 30 seconds of your ad. But your ad can be as long as you want it to be. You can have them watching for 5 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour long if you want, and you don't get charged anything extra for that. So there's a lot of value in YouTube, but I wouldn't start there. And
Yeah.
now if you have an e-commerce product, you have to be on Google Shopping. You just have to be on Google Shopping. That's where almost all the volume is. YouTube, I will say, it's a little bit of a more advanced platform than in terms of getting it to work. So I wouldn't start there, but I would look to scale there.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing. You know, the other day, I use YouTube a lot more as a consumer, because the ads on TV are just ridiculous, and the shows on I'm based in Australia, but I'm sure that it is all around the world. So we watch a lot of YouTube videos of, hiking, camping, sailing, all of that adventuring and homesteading and all of that. And one question that I would love to ask you, if someone's not really stepped out into any of those platforms and still are hesitant to, and one of the things that they might say to you is, Dmitri, Facebook ads and YouTube and Google and all of those. There are so many people on that platform. How on earth can we compete? What would you say to them?
Well, there are a lot of companies on those platforms, but everyone still gets a chance. You still are going to show up in front of consumers, and just like we're all unique people, our businesses can be unique, and this really goes back to the storytelling. If you're competing with somebody on pricing, for example, you're already in a losing position. It's a race to the bottom. The only thing you need to be competing on is how interesting is your story. So this is really up to you. How can I compete? Well, you put something that's unique to you out there, or your team puts out something that has a unique selling proposition and has a new spin on something. It doesn't even have to be a new product or service. Diet and weight loss has been around for as long as people have been around, I'm sure. And still, it's one of the biggest industries in the world because there's always a new angle to approach. So work on your offer, work on your story, and you'll compete. There's just like there's a lot of companies advertising, there's also a lot of people looking to buy.
No, absolutely. I totally agree. And I totally agree with what you've said. And there was a reason why I shared, we watch a lot of YouTube videos. How important is it for businesses not only to look at, well, how can we leverage, how can we really take what's available to us as far as the ads ads concerned across YouTube, Facebook, Google, how important is it also as part of the storytelling for businesses to also create as part of their content creation and have great storytelling and information just on those platforms anyway? And the reason why I asked that question is this: we started, as I said, we watch a lot of homesteading videos, and there was a video that popped up, and I thought, oh, I'll go and watch that. And I watched the video. I thought, I really like the style of the storytelling. And then I went and did a bit of a search on their channel. Now, all of the other videos were a lot lower. And when she mentioned in one of the videos that I watched, she said, we've got 10,000 views on the documentary that we shared. I went and looked at the documentary, and at the time that I watched it was about 11 days. They were already at 46,000 views. Now, imagine if they had started to do advertising down the track and things like that, because they might be selling eggs. I don't know. But the storytelling just obviously drew so many people in. So that leads me back to my other question. How important is storytelling as far as all of the other things that you share as part of your business to be on that platforms with short form, longer form information that your ideal clients are going to be educated about, entertained, and all of those things? Is it still important?
It's extremely important, but I do want to start off with that you don't have to do everything all at once, all at the beginning.
Yeah.
It's very hard to put out organic content, worry about your ads, run your business, and all these different things all at the same time. But once you have something going, then take the next step and start making organic content. There's a few things I want to talk about when it comes to organic content. Is number one, just like you're saying, if somebody hears about you and wants to learn more, what are they going to see? If you don't have organic content, they won't find you. They're Googling you, they're searching for you on social media. That's a perfect opportunity for your competitors to scoop up traffic that you generated and
Mm.
deserve, quite frankly. And for that reason alone, organic content is extremely important. The other thing is that we as consumers are much, much more trusting of organic content than ads. And going back to what we were saying earlier, we're putting up the walls. A lot of people, when they Google something, they'll skip those first four results in Google search without even looking at them, just because they have the word ad next to them. They just don't trust ads. A lot of
Mhm.
people just don't trust ads, but organic content, they do. And it's kind of like that movie Inception. I don't know if you've seen it, but it was um it was out like 15 years ago, and it was about planting an idea into someone's mind, and the only way to do it is to make them believe that they were the genesis of that idea. With an
Yeah.
advertisement, it can't happen, but with organic content, they feel like they researched it out. They found it. They found you. You told them that was them doing it, and they're so much more likely to buy.
Yeah, so important. But as we said, I mean, I love that you continued to emphasize, and I think it's so important. You don't have to do all of the things at once. However, bringing it back to something else that you said, and I also believe you don't have to make it so overcomplicated that it seems overwhelming, and you don't end up doing anything. And I know that we just scratched the surface. I often say that at the end of every interview that I do, because it's true. We've only just scratched the surface, but I know that what you've shared today is going to provide some valuable insights for people who may be doing ads already and thinking, oh, that's why they haven't really landed as and had the results that we had hoped, and also for people who may be considering going down the path of paid advertising. So how can people find out more about you and your company and the services that you offer, Dimitri?
Well, my company is called Big Life Marketing. You can Google it. You can go to biglifemarketing.com. We have a form that you can fill out. You can reach out to us on social media, and then we can talk about working together. Now, if you want to hear more about stories and insights about marketing, all things marketing, I actually just started a podcast with a really good friend of mine from the digital marketing space, and it's called The Amazing Marketing Show. And we talk about all things marketing, and we believe that marketing is in everything, and everything is marketing. Serious, like everything, every conversation that you have is a sales pitch to do something, whether you're talking with a stranger or your kids or your wife. There's always marketing involved, and same thing, of course, with sales and business. And so we like to dissect that on the Amazing Marketing Show.
I love that. Fantastic. Well, thanks once again for coming on the show and sharing your insights with us today. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Anne-Marie.
Hey, it's Anne-Marie. Before I go, are you a coach or a consultant who feels like the world's best kept secret? Your experience is vast, yet secretly you're frustrated because despite all of your hard work, you're just not getting the visibility, the recognition, or new clients you'd hope for, and you don't know why? I've created a free resource that'll help you build visibility, generate leads, and enroll dream clients with ease because you're seen as a trusted authority, even in a crowded marketplace. And you've positioned yourself as the choice versus just a choice for your dream client. To get started, go to annemariecross.com/gift. That's annemariecross.com/gift.